Cool. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tracy Rolls. I'm Strategy Manager, Group Marketing at Tiger Brands. And joining me today to help moderate is the Director of Corporate and Group Marketing Strategy, Sarvesh Sitaram.
Thanks for the introduction, Tracy. And thank you to all of you for joining us today, the 28th of May, as we mark World Nutrition Day.
Before we kick off, just some housekeeping rules. Microphones will be automatically muted unless you are presenting. Should you want to join the conversation or ask a question during the event, please type your question in the chat box function, which can be found on the Teams toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Right, let's quickly run through the agenda. Can we have the agenda up on the screen? And let's have a look at what we can expect to hear over the next 2 hours. Right, okay, first up is our interactive discussion with our expert panelists, followed by a discussion with our bloggers. We will then open up the floor for audience Q&As, after which we will wrap up the discussions. So a nice jam-packed 2 hours ahead of you. Please feel free to share your thoughts on this topic on social media. We'd love to hear your opinions as well as your success, milestones, and challenges when it comes to being intentional about leading a healthy lifestyle. On the next slide, you will see our Facebook and Instagram. You can also find this by searching for Eat Well, Live Well SA. And please use the following hashtags that you see on your screen to drive the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. So ahead of World Nutrition Day, we at Eat Well, Live Well, a Tiger Brands nutrition initiative, launched a 28-day consumer education campaign to encourage better eating habits amongst all South Africans. Now, we felt that the timing was particularly pertinent as the global pandemic and national lockdown have had adverse effects on our pockets, our eating behaviors, and lifestyles. Here's an intro video to our campaign.
This last year has made us realize that there is nothing more important than our health. The global pandemic and the national lockdown have had adverse effects on our pockets, eating behaviors, and lifestyles. Many South Africans have been eating and snacking more often while working from home and exercising less. At the same time, we've also come under pressure to continue putting food on the table as living expenses increase. All of this has compounded our position as an obese nation. Obesity has harmful long-term effects on our national health and well-being. This is why Eat Well, Live Well has launched the 28 Days Until 28 May campaign ahead of World Nutrition Day. It takes around 21 days to break a bad habit and a further 7 days to create a new, healthier replacement habit. We want South Africans to realize that breaking bad nutrition habits is easier than they think. Eat Well, Live Well wants to encourage South Africans to embrace healthier eating behaviors and more active lifestyles, especially when they have a partner like Eat Well, Live Well by their side to support their nutrition journey. This campaign will help South Africans make better food choices on any budget. It will focus on healthy meal plans alongside nutritious recipes using Eat Well, Live Well endorsed products that are healthier. This campaign will help South Africans make small yet deliberate steps towards improving their nutrition behavior, lifestyles, and mental health one day at a time. Because to eat well is to live well.
So what you would have seen in the video is the intro to why we're celebrating World Nutrition Day and how we at Tiger Brands are actually hoping to play a more active role in South Africans' lives to be able to create the difference that we believe is so desperately needed. And what you didn't get to see on the video, but thankfully we have him live and in studio, is Arthur Ramoroka, who's the Tiger Brands company nutritionist and an Eat Well, Live Well spokesperson. He's a registered dietitian and he has vast experience on the topic of nutrition and wellness. Now, Arthur, you've been intimately involved with the campaign and the Eat Well, Live Well brand for a long time. Please, could you explain to us the importance of World Nutrition Day and why you believe it's important for us to be hosting a webinar on this topic for today?
Thank you, Savesh, and good morning to everyone who has joined us on this important day. We want to shine a light on the state of nutrition in South Africa, and really World Nutrition Day is the perfect opportunity for that. At Tiger Brands, our core purpose is to nourish and nurture more lives every day. And to do this effectively, we launched the Eat Well, Live Well initiative in 2009 as our commitment to providing South Africans with good nutrition, but as well as offer them with nutrition information that is meaningful to them, right? So at Eat Well, Live Well, we want to inspire you and your families to maintain healthy lives through better food choices on any budget. And when you see the Eat Well, Live Well stamp of approval on any of our products, you know that you're making the better choice for you and your family. So our products offer you with an easy to read and easy to understand logo at a glance, which really illustrates whether the products that you have just purchased is high in nutrients that you should be having more of, or it is low in nutrients that we should be cutting down on.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. Now, last year, December, Eat Well, Live Well released the State of Nutrition in South Africa report. This research showed a fundamental shift in consumer behavior, like the fact that more South Africans have been snacking and eating more frequently. We've also been exercising less. All of this has contributed to many South Africans gaining weight during the pandemic. And I'm sure some of us will agree to that. This has resulted in an increase in the nation's body mass index, or BMI. A higher BMI increases the propensity for weight gain and lifestyle diseases such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and stroke. Do you know your BMI? Visit our website, www.eatwellw, so www.ewlw.co.za, to check out your BMI. We have a nifty calculator and it's pretty easy to do.
Good. Now, many of the habits that Tracy alluded to that we've picked up in recent months are unfortunately likely to remain with us well after this pandemic has subsided and is likely to have negative long-term effects on our health and well-being unless we make a change. So we want to help South Africans realize that breaking bad nutrition habits is actually a lot easier than you think, especially when you have a partner like Eat Well, Live Well by your side.
And that is why we are here today, to support South Africans along their nutrition journey. On average, it takes around 21 days to break a bad habit and a further 7 days to create a new, healthier replacement habit. You can start this 28 journey towards a better you at any time. Today, we have a panel of healthcare professionals and South African moms and dads with us who are going to help us to be more intentional about our future eating behaviors. Please remember to pose your questions to our panelists and parent bloggers via the chat box feature. We will answer a few at the end of the discussion. Thank you.
Great. So without further delay, and hopefully no more technical gremlins creep into the rest of this webinar, but I'd like to introduce the panelists of our World Nutrition Day webinar. So first up, we have the esteemed Claire Jilsing-Stradum, a registered dietitian who has been in clinical practice for 17 years. She is also the co-founder of Nutrition Solutions, one of the largest dietetics practices in South Africa. Welcome, Claire. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Savesh. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, great. So we also have a few panelists, and these are especially bloggers who are parents. And first up, I would like to take the pleasure of introducing Nadia Gabriel. And I'm going to read a little bit of this so I don't get any of this wrong. So Nadia, just bear with me. So Nadia is a homeschooling mom to two amazing little girls. Just homeschooling itself to one child, I can imagine, is challenging. To two little girls, incredible. And she's been blogging for the past 6 years whenever she finds the time and shares her parenting highs and lows as the cheeky optimist. She also won the award for Best Wisdom Post in the South African Parenting Blog Awards in 2019. Well done. And Nadia believes, as do I, that children learn best by example, which is why parents need to be the ones to model good eating habits and behaviors. Good on you, Nadia, and completely ascribe to everything you say. So, but thank you for being with us.
I'm excited to chat to all of you.
Okay, I get to introduce Emmanuel. Emmanuel Kelly Luli is a lifestyle blogger who showcases his blended family life alongside his partner, Darren. Hopefully we'll see Darren today somewhere. Emmanuel's blog, which is called Two Dads and a Kid, has won several awards such as the South African LGBT Blog Award in 2018 and 2019, as well as the Top 20 LGBT Parenting Blog in 2019. We love that Emmanuel is upfront about the joys and challenges of parenting as a gay father. He frequently shares tips about education, food, and health. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Morning, Tracy. Morning, team. Thanks for having us. Darren will be joining us shortly.
Cool.
And then next on our panel of bloggers, let me introduce Yonela Mnyanda, also known as Yoza. And she's one half of a young creative couple that showcases their daily family and work life with a focus on their baby daughter, Bayete. And I'm sure Bayete might make an appearance sometimes during this as well, as many of us may find during the day if we still are working from home. But every week, you'd find that Yoza shares their weekly goals, such as eating behavior, what makes them, what should be eaten to be healthier, making wiser lifestyle choices. And together they provide a fun yet realistic perspective of what it's like to be young parents. And hopefully many of us on the call today can relate to that. So Yoza, welcome to the call. Looking forward to hearing your wisdom.
Thank you.
Awesome. Right. Now that we've introduced everyone, let's unpack how we can all be more intentional about eating better and moving more so we can be healthier, because we become our behaviors after all. So the first question I would like to know, as a mother of two young boys, 9 and 13, I have a teenager in the house. Yes, it is crazy, but I do. Is how can South Africans easily embrace better nutrition choices, as we have this perception that it is really hard? Should we start with you, Claire? What is your view?
Thanks, Tracy. I also have two young boys. Mine are a little bit younger than yours, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I really can understand why people think it's hard. There's misconceptions that to eat healthy means it's hard work, it's going to cost more. We have these misconceptions around nutrition. And I think the first thing that I say to any person that sits with me in my office when they're starting to change habits is choose 1 or 2 small changes that you're going to start with. Implement that. And once you get going, it's like building a snowball. You start building this, and as you get going, that one thing that you started with, that becomes easy. That's your norm. So I always try to say to patients, also identify 3 things that you think you're doing okay at, and 3 things that are hard for you with your nutrition, and make the 3 things that you're okay at. Be awesome at them. So if you like veggies, let's get your veggies right up. But if you battle with exercise, let's start you slowly on that. So to try and understand where your strengths are and get them really awesome. I think that's also something that we can focus on. Yes.
Wow, I love that. So optimize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. Yes. Yeah. Nice.
Good. And Claire, I think something you mentioned now actually hits home for me quite a lot, because I think many of us, if you had to ask a list, and it's probably for those of us that always have things to pick on about ourselves, the way we look, the way we eat, the way we have less energy, more energy, whatever that might be. But the list is often long, which makes us feel as if we cannot make the change. But I think your point's so valid, is that choose the 1 or 2 things that you feel you can do credibly and consistently, and make the change on those first, and then move on and on from there, right? And so completely subscribe. And I think it probably warrants the lead into this 28 days to 28 May. Now, you may not have known about the campaign come 1st May, so you may not have started the first 21 days of changing behavior before resetting yourselves. But I suppose the message that Claire has just given, combined with the understanding that we have that it takes 28 days to create something new, your 28 days can start today. And if you are very clear on what those 2 or 3 things are that you want to change, I've got a personal list of my own, which I won't share today with you, but there are things that I think we can. And who's to say that there isn't a 28-day cycle being kicked off every 28 days, right? Because you feel better about yourself, and you know what? Success breeds success. And I think if you feel more confident once you start getting that going, all right? But if I just change tack slightly, and we'll come back to the point around the changes we can make, etc. But I suppose let's just get the elephant out of the room. And we know that this COVID thing is wreaking havoc on so many of our lives. And somehow the life we want to lead is not the life we can lead, whether it's about playing contact sports or running with a big group of people, whatever that might be. And it becomes a lot more critical for us to manage our nutrition intake, because we aren't able to live as well as we would like to. Eating well becomes all the more important. I mean, Claire, maybe do you want to kick off that, and then we'll get the rest of the panelists to weigh in on that particular point.
Yeah, I mean, with COVID, I mean, it's really put the spotlight on nutrition in a big way. Because I think a lot of times with nutrition, people go, I want to eat well to lose weight. That's often a driving force for people. And I think COVID has really shifted the conversation to say, I need to be well, to look after my immune function, to, if I get sick, that I actually can overcome this. One of the key things I read about is there's a cardiologist who's very involved in nutrition in the States, Dr. Mazafran. He does a lot of publications, and he was saying our nutrition messaging around COVID should be to prevent chronic diseases that are causing inflammation, that impact our immune function, and that causes and leads to severe COVID disease. And in order to do that, we've got to start making those nutrition changes for health, because we know that nutrition plays a major role in our immune function, how our gut functions. We know that 60% of our gut associated lymphoid tissue that's immune is in the gut. So when we don't look after nutrition, good vegetables, high fiber intake, we start compromising our health, our immunity, and we are definitely at a higher risk. So it all comes together in one point. That's what COVID's done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just to add on what Claire has mentioned is that it becomes really important for us not to do things in a shotgun approach. We should have a more holistic approach to our health, combining exercise, rest, relaxation, and just other social activities that will then fuel our bodies and mind. And I think we need to also aim to consume foods in moderation and not choosing specifics and saying that because they are advertised as immune food, that we should only be focusing on that. I think the importance around immunity is that you need to build the body's natural defense on its own. Claire mentioned that 60% of immune system is in the gut, and just to put that into perspective, the surface area of our gut is roughly the size of a tennis court, and this just shows you how important it is to have a working immune system given its size. And really, the immune system, it's a system in its truest sense, and there's nothing that can boost it as we'd like to say, I want something that can boost our immune system. But what you need to do is adopt a generally healthy diet so that you can build your body's natural defense system, so that you can now also prevent other conditions that we mentioned earlier.
Arthur and Claire, so with COVID and us working more from home and potentially eating more than we should, what does a good portion look like? How do we manage portion control?
Tracy, good question. I've actually got all my food models here ready for action. Because this is a huge problem that I see in practice. And you were saying that South Africans have picked up weight. I'm seeing that in my practice. I'm seeing people have picked up 7-8 kilograms as the average in my own clinical practice. But a good guide for you to start working on is, if you take protein, you want it to be the size of your palm. So here's my chicken breast. That's actually the portion of chicken or a protein on our plate, okay? So most of us people get sad when I show them this, but this is actually the portion. So if we pop that on a plate, it takes up about a quarter of the plate. Your starch should also be about a fistful, or the size of your mouse of your computer is about one portion. So I've got a half a potato, it's around a 90-gram potato there. What we need to start doing, even if you just want to start with a plate model, is we need to start filling half our plate with veg, which a lot of us don't always get right. So you can see my plate model here. I'll hold it up to the screen. Half the plate is made up of vegetables. And if we can aim for 2 to 4 cups of veg, or actually 4 cups for the whole day, and really start adding a lot more veg to our plate, that fills us up. It stimulates the vagus nerve in our brain to say, the stomach is stretching, I'm feeling full. And then it's a lot easier to control portion size of the protein and the starch on our plate when our veg is the hero of the plate. And as South Africans, we're not so good at that. We have to, that's a big one that I find I'm often teaching people how to make veggies simple. And we think it's really hard, but I actually prep veggies on a Sunday. I'll cook a whole bunch of green beans, I'll roast some butternuts or pumpkin, and I'll have it ready in my fridge in see-through containers. One of my top tips that I want to share with you, because I find it particularly helpful for my patients, I make them move. You know that silly drawer at the bottom of your fridge where veggies go to die?
Yes.
Stop putting your veg there. So let's move the veg. Take your fridge, take the eye-level shelf, clear it out, and start putting pre-picked ready veg in see-through containers with lids that are attached. That's my new thing. If it doesn't have an attachable lid, it's out. And it's in the fridge, it's ready. I promise you that's been such a game changer for us in our household. I'm a dietitian, and I was throwing away veggies week in and out because of that silly shelf in my, that's the new drawer now for all the condiments. They live there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the fridge manufacturers get it wrong because, and if I follow the rules, it's the chiller, it's the one that keeps it fresh. It has the pictures of fruit and veggies, so you instinctively think. But you're right. If I had to open the fridge, as I do too many times a day, it's the last place I would look for anything to eat during the day, whether it be a snack or a meal. So you're absolutely right. Now, Claire, you said it's difficult for you as a registered dietitian, right? Which makes you, as an expert, give us a little bit of confidence that as regular people, that we aren't too far off the mark. And maybe just to hear a little bit from the bloggers here, guys. I mean, as everyday South African parents, how do you teach your children the importance of health, nutrition, and well-being? And what are your easy and practical tips that you want to share with everyone on the webinar today that they can take back and make tangible differences to their families' lives? Let's start with Nadia. Looks ready to go. So Nadia, do you want to lead this one?
Yeah, guys, I don't actually put too much of emphasis on it. And that's just my way of teaching my kids, is that I don't want to make it a big deal. I just want to make it seem normal. And I don't want to say, oh, guys, you got to eat this broccoli today. Or focus on the broccoli. It's just part of their meal. It's something that I do to eat, snack on it, and everyone is fine. And also, I think with kids, they're so fussy sometimes in terms of texture. So if a child doesn't want to eat a certain veg, also try and give them the raw version of it as opposed to the cooked version of it. So for instance, my kids prefer baby corn on its own without it being cooked because they like the crunch of it. And snap peas is another one, carrots. But if I cook it and give it to them, they're very unlikely to eat it. So I think giving your kids options and letting them try out different things and just making it seem normal is one of the best ways that you can actually get kids to eat stuff. Don't make a big deal out of it. So that's my best.
Thank you, Nadia. Emmanuel, I saw you nodding there. I mean, what can you relate to and what more can you add?
Yeah, I think basically what Nadia was saying, with our son, it's the same thing. He's really fussy in terms of vegetables and what he will eat and what he won't eat. So I find that we have to either sneak it into other proteins. For example, if I'm making meatballs, for example, then I'll throw in lots of vegetables in there so that those vegetables that he doesn't enjoy eating in their natural state, then he's eating it through the meatballs or in a shake as well. That just makes it easier to make sure that he's consuming vegetables and not just chips and all the wrong foods.
Good. Yoza, anything to add to that?
Yeah, just like Nadia, we practice a lot of like being neutral about healthy food. Like we just like it's normal. Broccoli is the same as cheese or whatever, like the things that she finds more tasty. But the great thing about our child is that she's still young and we like adopt to this mentality very early. So like the first foods that she ate were vegetables, and then we approach them in a neutral way. So it's like, it's not a thing. She loves her broccoli, she loves her carrots, she loves all her veggies, which is great. I hope it doesn't change. But yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. Is that I recognize, because within my social circle, there's some kids of the friends that we have that absolutely love vegetables, and in fact, more importantly, when you offer them a drink at dinner, they would say no to soda and rather I prefer a water. I was like, how did you get this right? Because my kids are like, I'll have the red drink and I'll have this, and no, I just don't know more vegetables than is absolutely necessary. But I think what it points out to me is that teaching good habits really does start at a young age when they basically have very little baseline. So the earlier you get them inculcated into this healthy eating habit, the easier it is for them to go through life with it. So I have started in small ways. I'm not totally a terrible parent. I've reduced the sugar intake in general items, cut down portion sizes and stuff. So they have a sense of it. But I believe that as adults, we probably have a much tougher job to do. But when you see that waistline expanding, and believe that you need to do something different, it's probably worth the effort. But starting early with kids, definitely the way to go.
Especially with water intake, actually, because I mean, a lot of, especially in winter, it's hard to drink your water. You know, you're supposed to have that 8 glasses, 2 liters a day for an adult. But also just to get your kids drinking water before you even introduce them to the carbonated soft drinks and the sweet drinks, which also fills them up with the wrong calories. Emmanuel, I wanted to ask you, because I think we can all do with a bit of motivation, right? We all need that. And I loved your video around exercise and getting out there and doing your 30 minutes three times a week. How have you found the Be Better or our initiative? How have you found that in terms of influencing you to just put yourself out there and motivate and get going? Has it helped?
Tracy, it has. Sorry, it has helped a lot because it made me a lot more conscious about what I'm consuming and the amount that I'm consuming as well. And I think we chat with Arthur as well early in the week where it's not necessarily about what you're eating, but the portions that you're having. I think Claire also alluded to that earlier, and balancing it out. It's not just eating well, but also exercising, making sure that you're burning off those calories, not just eating and sitting on the sofa. I mean, on a weekly, every week, every day, if you don't make a conscious effort to stand up and walk about, you will sit for 8 hours. The minute you start working, you're going to be sitting. So make that effort to get out there and exercise at least 30 minutes, if not every day, every other day, just to get you more active, moving, exactly. And that's what this whole Be Well, Eat Well, Live Well campaign has done for me. Made me a lot more conscious about what I'm doing and what I'm consuming.
Okay. And Darren, do you feel that you need to motivate him? Does he jump out of bed in the morning, rearing to go? Or is it a case of, come on, let's go, put on those tackies, let's go for that run?
Tracy, look, I'll admit he's a lot better than what he was. I'm the morning person, so I get up early and I go to gym and I get that out of the way. Whereas Emmanuel needs a little more motivation to get going. So being a part of this campaign, I think, really helps. It just kind of conscientizes you to really, focus on what you eat, how you eat, when you eat it, and then also the kind of foods that you eat to energize your next workout or energize the next hour or so, which is incredibly important. So it certainly is a helping hand, and it's nice knowing that we've got this national brand behind us that's helping us, achieve these small goals bit by bit.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does the right amount of exercise look like? Maybe Claire or Arthur? How much should we be exercising a week?
I'll take that one. Sorry, Claire. Yeah, I think, as Emmanuel and Darren were speaking, and you can see that if now started with small milestones, small steps that really count. And generally, we want to aim to do 150 minutes a week of exercise. That could be in 30 minutes sessions in different days in a week. And really, that would help, with a lot of things. I mean, studies have really shown that people who exercise regularly are less likely to be affected by depression or anxiety, but also there are other studies that indicate that when you exercise, you actually also make good food choices, and the reverse is also true. I think also exercise offers an opportunity for us to escape, get away for 30 minutes or an hour, and not think about life. Sometimes life can be really hard, and other people may use exercise to think about life in a different way. So I think the best part of exercise, really, Tracy, is that it can be anything to all people. It is a platform that allows you to do whatever you want to do with it. And I think this is why it is important to include regular exercise and physical activity into our daily routines, because and the reason why I'm mentioning physical activity, because we don't want to look at exercise as this big thing that where you need to get up and go running, but also just few moves that you can do in your living room, and that you can do also in your garden, just so that you're active and you're not leading a sedentary lifestyle. But I think also one of the things that I mentioned is that we should remember to begin with an easy exercise routine if you're just starting, because you don't want to aim high and then you are demotivated. You end up not meeting your exercise or physical activity goals. And I think really this will motivate us as our fitness level increases. And I think another important thing I want to mention here is the sense of community, which I think we have seen that a lot of people nowadays, they want to exercise together, be it online, because we've just seen how the pandemic, forced us to, just adopt, the whole virtual world, or it could be in person. And I think this then encourages us to be consistent in our exercises, also in our physical activities. And also because we know that people are different. Some are self-motivated. They can spend, hours at gym, and others like myself, I enjoy the social aspect of exercising. I do exercise with a group of my friends. And in this instance, even when I don't feel like exercising some days, the social pressure just forces me to get up and get active.
So Tracy, exactly what Arthur's saying, I love the social aspects. And you know what? One of the good things of lockdown, when we were allowed to exercise for that 2 hours, it was amazing because everyone was everyone's dogs, our neighbors that we've never met. And even in our neighborhood, we all actually have kept to that because it's actually fun now and we all know each other and it's so divine. And something else that's also really important, they talk about our physical activity, but also about active living. So what Emmanuel was saying, you can sit down for 8 hours, sit down, and before you know it, you've been at your desk for 8 hours. And that also makes us be inactive living. And you'll actually be surprised how many patients I started seeing during lockdown that got constipation from that sitting for hours on end. So I'd like to also encourage people to look at your steps in a day. Try and stand. If you're working from home, have a standing desk. You can literally take a cardboard box. Oh, look at Tracy, you're standing up there, right? Yeah. So if you can look at your activity time, your day, plus your exercise. I work a lot with women, and a lot of them start and they're not exercising at all. And one of my favorite things I like doing is say to them, dance for 3 songs. Just dance for 3 songs, or jump on your kids' trampolines. Most moms have a trampolines in their garden. And I say, go jump with your kids for 10 minutes. Let me know how that goes. So Arthur's 100% on the money. Start off, build it up, get friends to support you. We know that buddy systems help us with the exercise. So yes, to all of those things.
So I'm hearing it's fun. It needs to be fun. I guess if you're going to stick to or incorporate a habit in your lifestyle, it needs to be fun, and it needs to fit with your lifestyle for sure.
Great. So Arthur and Claire, great tips. So 3 songs a day, I can do that. Been wanting to learn how to jazz a bit. but I've got 2 left foot, so that's not going to work too well. But when you talk about tips and tricks, I mean, I believe that the road to a healthier you does start with being intentional, right? To be better. So be intentional to be better. And I mean, it is winter. It might not yet be as cold as it will get in the height of winter, but getting up in the mornings aren't the easiest thing to do on a good day, let alone the cold, wintry days. But the one tip that I am able to share is that a friend said to me that if you do get up early in the morning and able to do that, whether it's light stretching, heavy workout, or a run, the effort of getting up might feel like tough initially, but once you've gotten that energy boost in the morning, A, it helps you, but B, mentally, it helps you to create a credit in your mind. And all through the day, that extra donut or that extra unhealthy good or extra packet of crisps always feels like it's being debited against that credit. Now, if it's being debited, that's great because you've built up a bit of credit. But I suppose the mental endurance you're trying to create by having gotten up early that morning to sort of get yourself fit almost makes you second guess whether you should have that bit of unhealthy food. And I think that in itself could be a big motivator to saying more of the good, less of the bad, if you can get yourself out of bed early enough. And I mean, from our bloggers, what tips are you able to share about what are the small steps you make, either nutrition wise or in just living well, that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Mine going fast. And one of the biggest things for me recently, especially, is upping my water intake, because as soon as it started getting cold, I was just having coffee and tea and hot chocolate, like all those warm, comforting drinks. And normally I drink a lot of water, but suddenly I was down to 1 glass a day. It is bad. So that was my conscious decision since we started this, because I realized, wow, I'm hardly having any liquids. I am having liquids, but it's full of sugar. So it doesn't. So that's been my conscious decision to drink more water, and it's going really well. But also, for some reason, I thought that I'd start the day with a mug of hot water with some lemon in it. No idea why I thought that, because I hate lemon in water. So just do that out the first day and just kept going. But it's going really well. So I think make decisions that you know are going to work for you, and not because it looks good, like the lemon in water. That was my big change, was the hydration.
Thanks, Nadia. Yoza, you've been. What are your tips?
Mine would be, I guess, like I think I thought that exercising was this big thing, that it had to be like in a gym, or like you have to be, you have to have all this equipment. And I think something that changed for me this week is just like taking a walk. That's exercise. Like the smallest little things, and you just feel so much better. Like I feel like I stopped myself from exercising because I thought I have to go to the gym. And as a full-time mom, it's not always easy to like go to the gym or like leave the house. But just taking a walk with the pram and walking a bit faster than you normally would, that has made such a big difference to me and made me feel so much better. Yeah, that's my tip. Just do anything active.
Manuel, Darren?
I think
Okay, go.
I think for us, the reason, the main reason why people snack on the wrong foods is because it's so convenient and it's so handy and it's lying around the house or it's in the cupboard. So what we try and do is we try and prepare our food in the morning or at night for snacking on, whether it's a boiled egg or whether it's, carrots or peanuts and raisins and things like that, so that it's ready for you to snack on when the hunger pains hit. And to try and circumvent those hunger pains from eating, we try and eat or snack every 2 hours, so that you don't wait until you're hungry, because that's when you're more inclined to snack on the wrong stuff. So snack every 2 hours on the right stuff, drink lots of water, and just prepare the night before so that it's ready, so that you don't go looking for something, because then you are going to see the wrong foods.
Yeah.
And then for me, I've started cutting out sugar from my coffee, because I mean, with me, up until I started this Eat Well, Live Well campaign, I was having sugar in my coffee, my tea, my Milo, everything had sugar. And since removing it, I've noticed that it's okay. It actually tastes fine. So if anything, try that. Start maybe if you're taking 2 teaspoons at the moment, reduce it to 1, get used to that, and then reduce it further to no sugar at all. And before you know it, you'll enjoy that cup of coffee, that cup of tea plus your water, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely agree. In fact, just to relate to that, growing up, I think that I used to have all of my hot beverages with between 3 and 5 teaspoons of sugar. And they say that you're killing them with kindness. I kind of feel that's what my parents were doing because they knew I loved the taste, but they didn't have the platforms like Eat Well Live Well to help guide them in terms of good nutrition. And I love the taste. I had so much of it, probably just because of the sugar rather than the taste of the beverage. But over time, I've recognized the need to change. And I, like you, Emmanuel, have now cut down to 0. And the honest truth is that when I do have any hot beverage with sugar right now, it almost is unbearable. It just doesn't suit my palate anymore. Anyway, Claire, any more tips from your end?
Yes. So I just want to comment on the sugar thing with all of you, with your own experiences. Sugar and salt are actually, it's learned tastes. We learn to taste that level of sugar, and you can actually reduce it. So like Emmanuel was saying, over time, if you can reduce it, you'll actually become so used to that new taste. And we see this with sugar and salt. I mean, in South Africa, our salt legislation, we legislate salt in food products. And South Africa has been one of the most progressive countries in the world to reduce our salt. And in the beginning, people would get really upset, and they, if you take it away immediately, but our salt intake's been halved and reduced so much. We don't even know it anymore. We don't even taste it anymore. We're so used to it now. So it's just reinforcing a new good habit over time, and specifically with taste preferences, you absolutely can reduce the sugar because we don't want those massive amounts of sugar coming in on a regular basis every day. It's not a good thing. So well done to both of you on reducing the sugar intake. It's a huge win for your health.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Claire. And I think the point you make around managing our intake of salt and sugar is 2 very common items that you're getting so many different, and so it's items that are included in prepared goods, but also items that we actively add into whatever we choose to have them with, and therefore we can control it in both ways. I mean, Arthur, we know that part of why we have Eat Well Live Well is to be able to create for consumers a very easy marker with the Eat Well stamp of approval as to what foods are good and which ones are maybe not as good for you. Do you want to maybe just tell us, because being the expert on the panel with regards to Eat Well Live Well, tell us a bit about the program and how it helps consumers make healthier choices, for example, around sugar and salt content.
Yes, thank you, Savesh. That's a very good question. I think with what we wanted to do with Eat Well, Live Well is to really offer consumers easy to understand nutrition information messages that are really meaningful. We know that nutrition sometimes can often be very convoluted, where consumers are just confused with the different messages that are being, shared, on social media, on many platforms. I think Eat Well, Live Well really wanted to, offer consumers a credible, platform, so that we are able to take nutrition information, which sometimes is not accessible to all consumer communities in South Africa, so that we make it available in simple ways and really practical ways that would actually help consumers long-term, foster good eating behaviors and lifestyles. So we do it through, our product packaging, and product packaging, really, we have the Eat Well, Live Well stamp of approval. And you would notice this on some of our food products. They will have the Eat Well, Live Well stamp of approval, which just highlights at a quick glance if the product is good in nutrients that you should be promoting in your diet or having a lot of in your diet, like fiber, like protein, vitamins, and minerals, which we know that they often lack in the South African diet. And also, one of the things that we look at is to help reduce the intake of salt and sugar that Claire spoke about earlier, and as well as saturated fat, where we know that sometimes certain foods can be high in those. So we try and make sure that we help, South Africans and their intake of those discretionary nutrients to really be low in the certain types of foods that we have. And not all foods will carry the Eat Well, Live Well stamp of approval. It's only for those products that really meet the strict criteria, which has been endorsed by the University of Stellenbosch, the Nutrition Information Center. We work with them so that we can keep improving our nutrition portfolio, and so that we can help South Africans make better food choices on any budget.
Thank you, Arthur. I mean, you touch on something that is so important, and I want to ask the panelists and even some of the guys on the chat that are listening in, maybe put into the chat box, is our sources of information are so varied, right? And whether it's something that's hitting your Facebook, whether it's something being distributed on WhatsApp or Messenger or Signal, whichever messaging platform you use now, or it's word of mouth that's being spread by those close to you. But it often to me feels as if someone's just done this. It may have worked for them, but it's not really medical advice. It's not really tested far and wide that everyone should now go and start mixing this herbal remedy to make you superwoman or superman, right? I mean, how much of that do you see, Claire, in your practice, and how much dispelling of myths needs to happen? And what role do you think someone should look to for Eat Well, Live Well to be able to give them factual information around good living?
Suresh, I've been in practice for 17 years, and I've never seen the consumer so confused about what to eat, how much to have. Honestly, there's so much information out there that is misleading, it's incorrect. I mean, I'm seeing some of the questions coming through here on the chat, and I don't know if I can jump in on some of them, because, I mean, one of the questions was, what about insulin? If I've got insulin resistance, what should I do? Should I be having lower carbs? Is one of the questions that's come through. Now, if we what you're saying about somebody says, well, I did this, I lost weight, you should all do this. Just because it worked for you does not mean it's evidence-based medical nutrition therapy. And for medical conditions, we look at science. So, I mean, just to put it in perspective, if we look at low carbohydrate diets, Lancet, one of the biggest medical journals in the world, published a systematic review where they looked at over 460,000 people and actually found that when we have diets very, very high in carbs or very, very low in carbs, we actually increase mortality rates. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making is we so fear-mongered against carbs. We think they're all bad, they're all terrible. The first thing we need to understand is lettuce is a carb, but broccoli is a carb. All our veg is also carb. Sugar is a carb. You know, we can't compare like a high fiber brown rice with a donut and say carbs are bad. So I think the first thing that we need to understand is differentiation of what we're getting in different foods. And fiber is one of the key factors you'll actually see on the label for the Eat Well, Live Well. I see on a lot of the things I'll say it's high in fiber. Fiber is critical. It's actually listed in the new Canadian guidelines for overweight and obesity management is fiber. So when we cut carbs out of our diet, we lose fiber. And fiber is one of the ways our gut can make something called short-chain fatty acids that downregulate inflammation. It actually helps with insulin secretion. And I often see this with patients. So for the person that sent the question on insulin resistance, we still have carbohydrates in the diet, but we specifically want functional fiber that's going to support gut function and help with glucose control, with insulin secretions. We get more benefits. You also touched on saturated fats, Arthur. We want to reduce saturated fats in the diet because specifically for insulin resistance, it actually changes the cell membrane permeability and makes us more insulin resistant. We know foods like olive oils and nuts and avocados are monounsaturated fats. They have a whole lot of health benefits. So I literally can speak on nutrition for days, but I just want to encourage the public to make sure you're getting reliable nutrition sources. Do not just follow any old person that's like, I lost 5 kilos, I didn't eat any food, I'm so thin. That's not good for your health. It's detrimental for your health. And I think that this campaign is a really good way for the consumers to get education that is evidence-based and make changes that are healthy, not just to make you thin, but they're actually really good for your health. And we need to start looking towards that as a goal, not just what we look like in bikini on social media and following that advice.
Yes. And just to add sorry, Savesh, just to add one point on what Claire mentioned, I just felt like coming in as well with regards to the whole role of fiber, because yes, if you're going to cut carbohydrates from your diet, you're certainly going to lose a lot of benefits from this particular good nutrient. I mean, we know that fiber, as Claire mentioned, is good for the gut. And we know that when we don't have it, a functioning gut, we know that we don't feel well. You know, sometimes we often refer to the gut as the second brain because there's a whole gut-brain axis that has been established. So it's really important to maintain a healthy gut, and including foods that are high in fiber or contain fiber. It's really critical. And if you're going to eliminate carbohydrates in your diet and follow certain, diets that have been in the media for a long time, it's certainly not going to be sustainable.
Great. Thank you to both of you. A really, really good point. So if I can sort of aim to summarize this part of the conversation, really it was about being intentional, right? And we spoke about how actually we all recognize the need for change, but often we find this overwhelming. And really to make it more manageable for us, we should try and summarize this into the top 1 or 2 things that we believe we can do credibly, consistently over the period of 28 days in breaking a new old habit and building a new better habit. So, and your 28 days can start today. You can go through 2 actions, be better, and restart another 2 actions. And who knows, by this year, next time, after a series of 28-day interventions, you'd be a completely new you, right? So that's the first one. We also said that actually COVID has obviously changed our world a lot, but it shouldn't be the reason that we stop doing everything well. And while living well in terms of physical activity in person may be restricted, there are lots of other ways virtually for us. I mean, look at this. We'd ideally have been in a big conference room having this sort of discussion in probably a year and a bit ago. And for me, this is just as engaging. So let's not make excuses, but it does force the spotlight on good nutrition, because if you aren't able to live well, you need to make sure that you eat well, and eating well needs to be a critical part of your daily life, because you do that more often than not. We spoke about the importance of veggies. We spoke about how we access information from reliable sources, and there were some good tips shared by the panelists around if you're battling to get some balance or to get some movement into your day, if it's not fitness related, maybe try 3 dances. There was a 3 dancing to 3 songs a day, just going for a brisk walk. I think it was that Yoza had said, and all of those sort of simple tips, which hopefully all of you had captured. So that was about being intentional, right? And that's about saying, I want to be better. Now, as we shift the conversation to being better, I want to sort of give the rest of the audience, put them into the picture. What we did with our panelists today is actually we, together with them, so Arthur, myself, Tracy, and the panelists have all been using healthy and nutritious recipes over the last little while. And all of these recipes can be found on the Eat Well, Live Well website. So we direct you to get there, www.ewlw.co.za. And it was about not just kickstarting. Well, for some of us, it's a kickstarting, and I'll take that one. But for many of us, it was about continuing our journey to wellness, but also learning more, because it is a continual journey of learning. And in that sense, we're gonna try and understand from the panelists now, how have they felt those experiences? How easy was it to be able to include the options presented as part of the recipes, etc., into their diets? And more importantly, how did it deliver in terms of their expectations and their families? So Nadia, if we can kick off with you. I mean, you want to tell us a bit about what you tried and how did you receive the end product of your gastronomical wondrous creation?
Really nice recipes on there, and I think we've all tried the French toast, if I'm not mistaken, because I mean that is a kid teaser. So the French toast went down really well. In terms of the other stuff, what I've done, we generally eat well at home, I feel. But what I've done now is I've swapped out our white flour-based products with the brown, what would I say, like the brown pasta and the brown rice. And even, for instance, usually on a Monday, I will make roti. So I've made it with brown wheat flour instead of white flour. And it's such a textural difference, but it's one of those things that you just get used to over time. So at first, the kids were like, wait, this tastes a little strange. Like, what is this and what are all these flecks in my roti and stuff like that. But they got along with it, and if that's the only option that's presented, then they'll eat it, So the recipes are amazing. I think making the small changes and just flowing with it. So why is my pasta brown? Because it's brown. You just like carry on. So we didn't make a very big deal out of it, but yeah, it's going well. And that was the biggest change for me, was swapping out the brown wheat, which is cool.
Good. I mean, I personally tried the French toast as well, and I know so did Emmanuel. So Emmanuel, you're going to tell us through that. I mean, what did you eventually end up putting as a topping, and how did you manage the balance of that?
Okay, yeah, we tried the French toast. We started off with the French toast, and it was actually quite easy to make, because a lot of the ingredients that you need to make it, it's everyday ingredients that you have at home. And one of the challenges that I had, and Savesh was alluding to, is that I was like, but it's not sweet enough. So can I add something else? So we decided, okay, we'll start off with honey first, and then the next time we tried it again, we removed it altogether, and it's fine. I mean, the natural sugars from the strawberries and bananas is enough, Yeah, so so the French toast is going down really well, and I think on top of that is also the adding a lot more vegetables in our meals now, because I know before it's so easy because you busy working at home, and then your child comes home from school and you're like, you know what, I don't have time to make anything quick. Just have the nuggets and the packet and the chips, and you'll be fine. But adding a little bit of greens, a salad or green beans or butternut that you have in the fridge, quick, and it's ready. And if you prepare it, I think at the end of the day, if you are prepared, it'll be great. It'll be successful. But if you're not prepared, that's where the challenge comes in.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's a fundamental consumer human insight is around what are we eating today? And who's going to make it, and how much time do you have, and in the business of life, what's easiest to make, right? And what we recognize is that also largely you are restricted to what you've got in your pantry cupboard, okay? Because you say, okay, what are we eating? How long will it be, and who's making it? Then you say, okay, whoever's drawn the short straw, it's like, let's go to the pantry cupboard and see whether we have everything we need. And you are limited by that. I mean, despite the advances of e-commerce and getting deliveries within 60 minutes at our door, when your family is hungry and you need to prepare a meal in 30, it probably 60 minutes still feels too long, right? And I think it does start there, about knowing what to choose to ensure your pantry has the right things so that you can make the right choices. But I mean, Yoza, what are some of the recipes that you tried, and how has that landed with you and your family?
I tried the French toast as well, and the stew. It actually hasn't been my daughter that's been the most difficult. It's been my partner, because he wants his things in a certain way, and he struggled a bit. But then when he actually ate the food, he was like, "Oh, okay." And now we love the brown parboiled rice. It's so delicious. It's so yummy. You just feel like this is good. Like this is better than white rice. You just feel that as you eat it, you're like, yeah. So I'm slowly converting him, and yeah, it's going really well. French toast went really well with my daughter. She loves bread. She literally wakes up in the morning demanding. Went really well, and yeah, just having fun, just like exploring and making new things.
Great. And Yoza, I mean, before I come to you, Claire, because I'm going to ask you what you tried and what your tips are in the kitchen. But Yoza, I mean, one of the things that I've realized, and being sort of locked at home with your family unit, is that a lot of food preparation becomes entertainment for your family, right? Because now sometimes if you've got the space and you want a physical break from sitting at the desk and your meeting schedule during the day, is that meal prep can and should maybe become a more family affair. And in that sense, I think it provides another opportunity to be able to create that change within the family unit of knowing what's good versus what's maybe not so good, and the balance between the two. Because the way that I like to say it, because I like to think of Arthur as my personal nutritionist, and what I say to him is that I'm not yet ready to go from zero to hero. For me, it's about making better choices than I did yesterday, and consistently, the better choices will all snowball to making me feel a little bit better. And maybe one day, someday soon, I would actually be able to join Arthur in the gym and work out with him and actually keep pace. Someday in the future. We can have hope, cross fingers. But anyway, to you, I mean, what have your experiences been in this sort of meal preparation journey over the last 28 days?
So I want to first just say well done to you guys for the green bean mac and cheese. That's very good because we all like a mac and cheese. So adding the tuna and the beans into that was a win. And it's delicious. And the kids are keen because it's got the cheese, it's got the pasta, it's got all the tick blocks for them, you know. And my biggest thing that I do with a food prep is I prep in bulk often. I'm a working mom, I've got 2 young kids, I run a practice that's busy, right? So one of my favorite things is I actually got myself a stand-up freezer with drawers because that big chest freezer was very similar to the vegetable drawer at the bottom of my fridge. So I got the stand-up freezer and I actually buy little containers. I get these silver containers with the white cardboard lid, and I've got a Cokie pen, and I will batch prep food. So whenever I prep anything, I always make a huge pot, and I'll put a couple in the freezer. I'll write the date on it. I freeze hummus. I freeze a smoothie, ready to go smoothie ingredients get chucked in my freezer. I make ice lollies for my kids. Like Emmanuel was saying, he likes to put the veggies hidden in the meatballs. I even do that in the ice lolly with some berries. So honestly, my number one tip for food prep is your freezer. It's really a good option. You can have stuff ready and prepped, and you can keep a lot of stuff for almost 3 months in your freezer. So always put the date on, put a Cokie pen. Do not buy the foil container with a plastic lid because it makes icicles. You can't see what's in the container and you can't write on the lid so well. So those are my top tips for really utilizing your freezer to full capacity. Another thing you can do is, we've been talking about the grains and the fiber pastas and stuff. You can actually pre-cook like a brown rice and freeze it in those silicone muffin containers. And that's about a half a cup. Like a bachelor that was my patient many years ago used to do this. He bought those muffin tins that have got 6 holes, and he would freeze like barley, bulgur wheat, brown rice in that. Once it's frozen, pop it out, and you've got an ice cube of grains. So now all you do is you take that out and you've got your grain ready to have with your beef stew or with your lentil curry. It's ready and it's to go. And those options, the rices and the grains and stuff, they freeze really well. When you heat that up, it's like you've just cooked it. So those are staples I have in my freezer because they're always a good backup. Because I can tell you right now, even as a dietitian, I do not have superpowers to get home and be all energized about cooking dinner some nights, and then the freezer's ready for action.
Claire, someone has asked about the nutritional value of frozen versus fresh.
So we often get this question. Thanks, Tracy. The thing with frozen veggies is frozen vegetables in some cases might even have more nutrients available than something that's traveled without cooling and being on the shelf and sat in the grocery store and then in your car's boot. Frozen vegetables are frozen at the site, and they're actually really rich in nutrient density. So one of my patients once said, "Oh, Claire, frozen veg, it's like a cheat. You can't do it. It's not the best option." I said, "It absolutely is, and it's such a good option to have in your freezer because you can have frozen veg on the table within a couple of minutes. So the nutritional value in frozen veg is perfect. You can absolutely use and make use of them often."
Yeah, and just to add on frozen and fresh, and earlier we spoke about, making use of what you have in your pantry, and just so also you diversify your diet. You can also consider things like canned vegetables, which are really also just convenient. If you have your grains already cooked, you have put them in the freezer, you're warming them up, you can just open a can of vegetables and just combine that together with your starch as well as protein, but also making sure that you still have half of your plate as vegetables. Claire showed us earlier with the food models and how the plate needs to be so that we increase our vegetable intake, because quite often what happens is that you're going to have your starch and probably you have your stew from the other day and your plate might not have starch. So there are various formats of how you can actually increase your vegetable intake. Frozen, fresh, as well as canned, importantly, can contribute to your vegetable intake.
How can we enhance the flavor of healthier food in a healthy way? Because, you know, healthy food doesn't always taste as good, let's be honest.
So food prep is so important, Tracy, because South Africans typically we love to go for the salt pot and throw tons of salt on, but fresh herbs, spices are an amazing way to really increase the flavor in your food. I mean, something that I love using, like for example, cumin on cauliflower works incredibly well. They're really good taste combinations that you can use. Squishing fresh lemon juice over your food, you know, those kind of flavors really up the level of the taste without adding tons of salt. I mean, vegetables, we think when you have to have healthy vegetables, it must be boiled to death, by the way. We mustn't do that. It's not a good thing because we lose a lot of nutrient value when we boil veggies. But I mean, roasting vegetables in a nice an oven tray with a bit of olive oil. One of my tips I use with my patients is I say, pour the olive oil onto your hands, rub your hands with the olive oil, and then rub it onto your veggies, because a lot of us tend to sort of do that drizzle a little too long, and we get that oil just all sitting at the bottom of our pan, and then we're wasting, and we're not getting the olive oil on the veg. So one of my favorite things is to take veggies, I'll put rosemary in, I'll put lemon juice on, I'll put even once I'm done, like that cauliflower thing I was telling you about, I do cumin with olive oil, roast it in the oven, and then I take lemon juice with a bit of tahini paste and I mix it, and it makes almost like a mayo, and I toss that through the cauliflower, and then I put tons of fresh parsley on there. So I actually have little pots of herbs in my window in my kitchen, and I just pick from there. And then once they start looking like they want to die, I put them in the garden and they come back to life. And so I always actually have fresh herbs.
Yeah, and I think just to add on that, people often think when you are told to adopt a generally healthy diet, then it should be this clinical way of eating where you just have your veggies without salt and all that. And Claire is absolutely right. You need to not be afraid of experimenting, you know, bring your own personality into your dishes, be creative, so that you are able to, you know, present a plate to yourself or to your family that is really attractive, that you want to eat, because we first eat with our eyes, right? And also the flavor and the aroma that comes from that plate needs to really be appealing, and herbs and spices are a great way to do that. And over time, you know, without adding salt, we will then start enjoying, you know, all the taste that comes from all those natural herbs and lemons that you are using, you know, to bring flavor into your dishes.
Great. And I mean, the rest of the bloggers, well, how have you sort of, firstly, let me give you my personal perspective, is that I often find that the mental bridge between eating unhealthily tasty food to what is deemed less tasty, healthier food is a bigger one to close than should be the case. I don't know how many times I've sat in a restaurant and before I get there I say, I'm feeling a little bit overweight, I'm gonna have a salad today. But when I get there and I look at the menu and I say salad, nah, and I choose something else that is probably not as good as a salad would be. But I mean, when I do choose it, I'm so amazed at how delicious it actually is. I mean, for me, a chicken salad with the right quantity and moderation of salad dressing actually is just as good as any other meal I would think. So for me, sometimes I find it's more the mental block rather than the actual change that is there. I mean, from the blogger's perspective, do any of you want to weigh in terms of how you've experienced a difference of taste profile in healthy foods versus unhealthy foods? And whether that's real, or what are your tips to be able to overcome it where it could be? Because I do agree, broccoli is broccoli. You need to do something to make it really taste better than some other things.
So Vish, just on that one, on the broccoli and cauliflower, I found that if I boil them or grill them, whatever, I don't find them as tasty as having them in their natural state. I enjoy that crunchiness that, you know, with your meal. I don't know, it just tastes a lot better, I feel, than boiling it or grilling it. I'm not taking it away from, you know, grilling it with olive oil and etc. But I'm just saying, for me, I just found that when I started serving broccoli and cauliflower in its natural state, I enjoy it a lot more than I do if it's cooked.
Good. And Emmanuel, what other sort of, I wouldn't say compromise, yeah, but I mean, what other shifts from unhealthy to healthy have you and Darren made in your family unit that has either surprised you by not being significant, or you've actually said this is not for me, or you find a workaround to make it palatable?
What have we done?
I think generally we've always eaten pretty healthy. We've stayed on a pretty healthy course. You know, for me it's been quite easy because I've always enjoyed kind of bland food, and then comes Emmanuel with his Portuguese heritage and its flavors and sauces and everything else, which has kind of had me compromise my healthy way of eating. So I think we found a really good kind of middle ground. We're kind of moving away from the sauces, moving away from too much, you know, additions of salt and things like that. And you know, we're slowly getting there. It's a lot of compromise, but we are slowly getting to a more natural state of food and eating as well. Maybe a little more grilling as well. So on the braai, in the oven, using the convection oven and things like that, as opposed to frying. I think that's our biggest move.
I mean, just to ask Claire a question on, is there such a thing as too much chili?
Yes.
Some people are sensitive to it, Emmanuel. That's the thing. So poor Darren probably like, there is Claire, please say yes. I can see this has been a discussion in the household, right? So we actually know that some people actually genetically are bitter tasters, or they actually battle with the stronger flavored veg, like the broccolis and the Brussels sprouts and the fennels. It's harder for them. So it is a genetic thing. Some people are more sensitive to the chili, for example. But yeah, it's good to have chilies and turmeric and cardamom. The more herbs and spices we put into our diet, the better the phytonutrients of our diet, and that enhances our nutritional status. So, like a big dietitian thumbs up for the herbs and the spices. But if your partner feels it's a bit too much, you maybe make 2 batches for the more sensitive palate. And also on your broccoli, Emmanuel, we definitely know, and Nadia, you've also mentioned this, is that some people like a raw or the more crunchy. Sometimes they like the more squishy. And for kids, often that crunchier thing is often more preferable. And they also love it if there's a dip. Kids will often, if there's a dip with something, they're really interested in eating it. So, yeah, and you're laughing because I've seen your little girl on your Insta. She's just beautiful. And I'm sure, you know, if there's something they can dip, they're very keen on eating it. So it's very much individual preferences as well that come into the mix with all the discussions that we're having. And it's about finding what works for you and your family and then changing that.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Claire. So you were called out by Claire because you've posted the video. So you got to tell us, like, what are your tips and tricks on bridging the taste gap between healthy and unhealthy food, where it does exist? Doesn't always, but where it may exist.
Yeah, so like I said, with my daughter, it's not a problem. But just to speak on the dip thing, like, oh my word, she loves to dip. But like with dips, for example, instead of giving like a dip, we give like cream cheese or something better, or cottage cheese rather. But in terms of us and taste, like as the adults, because the issue in our home is not the child. The issue is the adults. Like, I almost wish we could start on a clean slate like she has, because it's just so much easier to start on a clean slate and not know better. But for us, our issue is ordering food, because it's just so much easier and quicker, and we're just tired and working from home and parents, and it's just a lot. But we've now started to cook more at home, or cook only at home. We haven't ordered anything this week. So that's a big achievement. And yeah, just through cooking at home, it's immediately healthier. And we just found, like, I think the thing that Arthur was saying about like your gut and your brain being connected, because we feel better after we eat and don't feel so like sluggish and like the way takeaways make you feel. I think like psychologically, it just feels like it tastes better. I don't know if it does, but we just feel so good that like we're enjoying eating the way that we're eating. And we're enjoying the taste and the healthiness and how much lighter it is.
No, absolutely, Yosa. And I mean, your view around eating out, I think, is shared by almost everyone. I think there's a few people that don't, but because it's easy, right? And you kind of know what you're getting. But I suppose the downside to it is that you don't know what you're getting. You know what you're getting where you're ordering it from, but you don't know because it's a bit of a black box. It's like it arrives, but you don't know what's been put in there to make it taste so good. And if we are being intentional about being better, us knowing how our food is prepared should become all that more important. In balance. No one's going to deny you your favorite takeout dish for the rest of your life. But I think having a balance. So very glad to hear that you've been cooking this entire week and enjoying the recipes from EWLW, and hopefully that kept you and your partner and your little one happy through the week. So that's great. Nadia, any tips from you on taste?
Okay, I think you've actually mentioned something that I wanted to bring up as well, is that mental block. So we know what's good for us. And the thing is, when we eat the stuff that's healthy, we feel better afterwards. And for example, if I make a platter with cucumber and carrots and some hummus, and we'll snack on that, and we'll feel amazing. We're like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. We should have this all the time. And then we'll see a box of biscuits later and like, oh, we should have a biscuit. But you don't feel good after eating those biscuits. And yet it's like our brain and our taste buds are fighting each other because you know what is good for you. But why is your brain actually making you reach for the unhealthy stuff? It's very strange. So for me, I feel like the best way to counter this is just not to buy it. Because if it's not at home, you can't eat it, it's not there. So you will automatically reach for the healthiest stuff that will be more feel good. But that's what I find so interesting about this 28-day change, is that it really is a habit that you need to get into. You have to get into the habit of continuously reaching for healthy snacks. And eliminating all the unhealthy options at home is honestly like the only way it will work for me, because I know I'll be in the best mental space, and then at 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, wow, I could really use a nice snack now. And I'm not reaching for a cucumber at 10 o'clock at night. That's not what it is. So yeah, eliminating all the bad stuff and just having those healthy options available is going to be the best way to actually succeed in this change.
Great.
Nadia, I love the idea you gave us around drawing faces on your fruit for your kids, the angry face, the happy face, and sort of displaying them in your fruit bowl. I thought that's quite a good idea. We've got a lot of questions in the chat. Yeah, sorry, do you want to talk more about that?
I just wanted to say that works really well until your kids get attached to the fruit and give them personalities, and then they don't want to eat them. So,
they start sleeping with them in their bed.
Yeah.
So can I just add something on what Nadia was saying, and like these foods that we want? It's important to understand we have two key systems that drive our hunger and our satiety. We have the homeostatic system in our brain that makes us stay alive and make sure we're getting enough food for our heart to beat, us to breathe, etc. But we have the hedonic food part in our brain, and that's the part that wants that chocolate or those foods, those pleasure foods. Okay, our hedonic system is always going to be there, and I think it's so important. Somebody asked a question in the comments: should I feel guilty about eating like those kind of treat foods, certain foods? And as a dietitian, I'm a dietitian, and I say to my patients, if you want that chocolate, go have that chocolate. Seriously, just have the chocolate, no guilt attached. I think it's so important for us to go, all foods can fit, and we can have those treats. And there's definitely ways to make healthier treats that also hit the spot. I often make my own little chocolates with cocoa powder and peanut butter and a bit of honey and lots of fruits and nuts, and I freeze it into like little shards. And I make date balls. So you're going to want to have those little treats now and then, and it's okay to have them. Don't feel guilty about it. Try and keep them smaller. Don't eat a whole slab of chocolate while you're having your Netflix Bridgerton binge watch or whatever. Have smaller portions and all the healthier stuff available. A trick that I always say to my patients: if you want to eat something that's not that healthy, let's say you really, really want that chocolate, don't go eat that chocolate in place of a healthy meal. We don't want to displace nutrition with foods like those that aren't. We talk about high energy dense foods with a lower nutrient quality, but we also go, yes, they have a pleasure value. So for example, if you want a chocolate, have your chicken salad and your mealie for lunch, and then have your little chocky with that meal, okay? Because also when you do that, you're changing the bolus of that meal. So now I think when we talk about the bolus, it's all the food that gets mushed together and goes into your stomach. And if we think of a bucket, if I put just the chocolate, boom, in the bucket, it's on its own. There's no fiber, there's no protein, there's nothing else coming with it. And the glucose spikes in that instance are a lot higher. If you have the salad and the chicken and the mealie, and you put that little piece of chocolate with that, that's all mixed together and your glucose curve is a lot better. So there's actually studies that show that when we combine these foods, the bolus changes, the glucose changes, and we get different outcomes. So be smart with your treat options and combine it with something that's really healthy, and avoid eating it, on its own, late at night. Those kind of options, try and avoid that. Have something healthy. So actually, most of my patients change their treats to lunchtime. I always say your treat must be married to the veggie.
Yeah, Claire is raising a very good point. I mean, that is a question that we often get to say, if I'm having a very nice lunch or healthy lunch and I have dessert afterwards, does it balance out? And I always say, absolutely right, but you have to be careful in terms of you amount of dessert or treat you're having at the time, because we all want to develop a healthy relationship with food. We should not be looking at certain foods and disparaging them, because every day we know that treats are going to be there, and to foster good eating habits, it is really done well when one still includes their favorite treats in their diet. But absolutely, it needs to be done the right way with the right amount. And for certain discretionary products that we might see in the market, we also have portion sizes that are written on them, and we need to be mindful of those. Start reading the food labels, because those are really a guide so that you know what amount of energy, of total sugars, of fat you're actually getting from that amount of portion. And if it says portion is 4 seeds, stick to that, because that has been done in a way that treats or desserts can still form part of holistic good eating, so that your energy is within the intake that is recommended by well-established health bodies.
There's quite a few questions on the chat around banting keto and intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Claire, it would be good to hear your views. And Arthur, thanks.
Let's look at the different components. So when we look at a ketogenic diet, it is a high-fat diet. It's 70-80% fat, okay? And that's the ketogenic and banting are pretty much the same. We use ketogenic diets for epileptic patients that are drug resistant. So it's a medical nutrition therapy that gets used in the treatment of epilepsy, okay? What we know from a weight loss perspective, they published the new obesity guidelines last year in August. The Canadian obesity guidelines were published, and actually looked at the ketogenic diet from a weight loss perspective. At 1 year follow-up, the ketogenic diet is not superior from a weight loss perspective compared to like a Mediterranean diet, for example, that still includes carbohydrates, but they're high in fiber. You're still having vegetables and fruits and a little bit of wine in the Mediterranean diet. The outcomes from a weight loss perspective at 1 year are not superior, number one. The second thing to understand with the ketogenic diet that we're seeing in the literature is that we're getting higher cardiovascular. The cardiovascular picture is actually worse. So they're actually saying this. You can actually Google this. If you're someone that's interested in this, you can go look at the Canadian dietary guidelines that were published last year in August, and there's a chapter on nutrition that addresses ketogenic diets and why they aren't a suitable solution long term. We see big studies done in the Lancet, where, like I mentioned it before, it was a systematic review and meta-analysis of over 460,000 people. And they found when the diet's carbohydrates were lower than 40%, it actually increased mortality. So this is not a diet that should be used. If we're talking about health overall, we're not getting overall better health benefits. You might get skinny quickly, you might lose weight and fit into your size 32 jeans, but this comes back to that core thing. We need to start looking at our health, not just our weight. I mean, the other big issue that we see with ketogenic diets is fiber disappears. There's no fiber. because you're not getting in the whole grain bulgur wheat and those kind of things. I think the one good thing about ketogenic diet is people cut sugar and refined carbs, which we want. We want less of those. But to blanketly remove all carbohydrates from the diet it's not a good idea. I mean, I get people saying, I can't eat butternut, Claire. It's grown under the earth. I'm like, I've been a dietitian for 17 years. I've never had to say to a patient, please eat less veg. Please don't eat butternut. Butternut's making you fat. We need to stop with these kind of nutrition messages that are not evidence-based and are driven by bad diet industry, essentially. That's the keto question. The intermittent fasting, Tracy, there's actually a lot of evidence around intermittent fasting. And it's in that same paper that I mentioned, but in also a lot of literature on intermittent fasting. I've read on it extensively. You get different types of intermittent fasting. You get overnight fasting. You get you can do like a 16-hour fast. You fast for 16 hours, eat for 8 hours. There are different types of fasting. When they compared intermittent fasting to calorie restriction, they fare on the same level. So whether you were doing the intermittent fasting or just restricting calories, they had the same benefits. We are seeing benefits from an intermittent fasting perspective in terms of health parameters like insulin, glucose, HbA1c levels, etc. But what I do with my patients is do a 12-hour intermittent fast. Eat your dinner by 7 and eat the next morning at 7. Don't eat at 10 o'clock, 1 a.m. Then you're still doing intermittent fasting, but you're getting the benefit of eating all the nutrients. And I mean, in South Africa, we've just finished Ramadan. You know how many patients gain weight during Ramadan when they're not eating in the day, breaking fast with poor nutrients, not good very energy dense food, and they fasted, but they're not using healthy food. So I do believe there's a way to get the benefits of intermittent fasting by doing that overnight. You eat dinner and you don't, and you eat breakfast the next day and you start your day, because that way you're still getting access to good nutrients in your body, still getting the benefit of intermittent fasting, but you're not going completely overboard and actually getting health issues because you're doing it incorrectly. So I think if you want to try those kind of things, I would highly recommend speak to a dietitian, get an approach that's going to work for you and support your health goals. So it's a very long answer, Tracy, but I hope I've covered it nice.
Sure, I'm just glad. I've been doing intermittent fasting without knowing it. I fast every night. I mean, I'm just so good. Now I know I'm on some sort of fasting diet. Very good. Arthur, do you want to add anything to that, to Claire's points? Are you okay?
I would be diluting her point. Very nicely articulated. Thanks, Claire.
Good. So, I mean, we spoke about food choices. We've just answered a question around the various options when it comes to losing weight, dieting, etc., etc. But we have been speaking about saying that being healthy is not just about what you eat, but how you eat. Now, Claire did the very lovely demonstration for us with her plate and the portion sizes and all of that earlier. But I suppose to the broader panelists, did you find yourself paying more attention to portion control and snacking in a mindful manner over these last 28 days? And how much a part does that actually play in your life? And do you recognize the benefits that could have in terms of changing the nutrition intake of your family? And how do you go about establishing these behaviors? Because I suppose, I think Joyza made the point, is that for her partner, when you set out a plate, culturally, the way that many of us have grown up, having half of it full of vegetables is not the way it's done, right? But I mean, how do we transition that? What are the things that you guys have been doing? What are the challenges, and what are some of the tips again in this space around how we eat? I mean, I'll give you my quick tip, and I've tried 2 of these. The first was eating out of a side plate rather than a full sort of plate. I felt I wasn't full at the end of it, right? So I probably worked for a few days, but I was always going back for a snack. So I felt that didn't work. The other thing that I find has worked in terms of how I eat is actually about water consumption. Is that if I have a tall glass of water just before a meal, I actually feel more satiated and not really reaching for seconds, etc., during my meal. So that's kind of how I do it, but I'm not sure whether it works or not. You can tell me later, Claire. But I mean, everyone else, what are your thoughts on this space? I can see Emmanuel ready to. Emmanuel's about to mouth the word. I'm just gonna call you.
No, I think to what Darren's earlier point, eating, let's say, every 2 hours would help as well. This is something that we're trying. The other thing also that we've changed, I think Claire mentioned earlier about the palm of your hand. So we're using the fist size. So if it's the size of your fist, that's all you're having, nothing extra or anything like that. The other, what else did we have? It was also the snacking at night. Nadia also mentioned that. I found that we were doing that. We'd like literally finished eating 30 minutes, and then we're sitting in front watching Netflix, and then we're like, let's have a rusk. It's like, really? But you just finished eating. So trying to get rid of that, and like you say, drink water if you really need to have something, or have a cup of coffee but no sugar, and also controlling that. I think sometimes we end up trying to fill those gaps by overindulging in caffeine as well. I think we're also starting to, well, at least myself as well, trying to cut down on the amount of caffeine that we consume, because you're sitting at your desk and it's like, where's my cup of coffee? Oh, it's a bit nippy right now.
It becomes a crutch. It becomes a crutch after a while. Yeah. I think what we've also started doing with our son is when we're having meals, instead of asking him when he's finished, are you full? We're asking him, are you still a little hungry? Is there still space for more? And then if he says, yes, there's still space for more, then we tell him, well, that's right. You should leave the table feeling like you could still have more, without overindulging and eating to the point where you are just, oversaturated with food, as it were.
Yeah, good point. Good. Nadia?
I actually think that's so interesting, and I was going to mention it now as well, is that sometimes we're eating at the table and you finish your meal and you still feel like you want a little bit more. But if you wait 15 minutes, you're full. So just stopping after you eating and not just continuously adding more to your plate, because a lot of it is just comfort eating, if you're being completely honest. Or you just like the taste of it. You're not hungry. So just stopping after you have that serving makes such a big difference. And thinking about this week and just being more intentional about stuff, I've been so conscious of the snacks that I'm reaching for. And that's because I'm at home with my kids the whole day. They're here with me. And they're such good eaters. But if I'm having a piece of chocolate, I feel like, oh, shame, let me give them some too. So I'm the one who's giving them all this bad stuff. And I've been so conscious of it this week. And I'm like, why am I doing this? They're not even asking me for things. And I'm handing out all these ridiculous snacks. So I'm being a lot more conscious of what I eat so that I'm not passing it down to the kids and spoiling their good habits, because they're fantastic. They eat really well. So yeah, just being more conscious of that and more intentional with what I'm eating, because they're watching me and I want to set a good example. So yeah.
Great. Yoza?
Yeah, so similar to Emmanuel and Darren, we've been doing a lot more water. As soon as we wake up, water. Before meals, water. So that's helped a lot. And then also with the coffee thing, I'm also big on coffee. I love coffee, and it's got sugar in it, and it's got milk in it. So we are also trying to replace coffee when we feel like it. Not all the time replacing, but with hot water with lemon. Nadia, I know you said you don't like that. But yeah, we quite enjoy it. So that's what we do. And also snacking more throughout the day on like stuff that's good for you. Because usually like we sort of just eat breakfast, maybe even skip lunch and then eat dinner. And then by the time you eat dinner, you are so hungry. You just want to like inhale everything. But now we are eating like more throughout the day in like smaller portions.
Good, great. I mean, I want to share another snacking tip, and one of the experts may call me out and say it's not going to work, but let me tell you what I do. And it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? So just bear me out. So my entire family has a sweet tooth. So when we're sitting in front of the TV after dinner, a full dinner, properly, like my wife wouldn't let the kids leave until, are you full? Are you full? No, it didn't look like you had enough, have more. So we're all properly fed by the time we leave that dinner table. But when we're on the couch and we're just relaxing, someone would say, what can we eat now? Let's bring out a slab of beacon chocolate, and we'll bring that out. And we don't like wasting. We're a family of no wasters. So we feel like we've got to finish this. So it was a real problem because we were doing it too often during every second day or so. So what we did was we created this little snack tray that now sits on our counter. But what we do is we buy jelly tots, we'll buy jelly beans, wine gums, all that stuff. And even the chocolate slab, we'll break up 2 chocolate slabs and put it into a little airtight container that sits there. But it's individual pieces. So what that means is that whenever someone's feeling a craving, and me especially, I'm happy to just pick up 1 block of chocolate, portion control, have that and be fine, rather than feeling that I've got to break open a new slab and then feel guilty because no one's finishing it and it's got to lie there getting dry. So for me, that's actually worked quite well. And I actually see us having less now, right? Because it feels like it's always available and you can have a small, I'll literally pick 2 jelly tots up, have it, and then that would be it. And it just feels like a good way for me to control portion control without feeling guilty. Am I doing the wrong thing?
Both the dietitians are like, okay, yes, let's hear what he says. So I mean, so the good points are, I think it's really good that you're getting like a little system where you can have 1 or 2 little things. That's great. I would definitely move your snack tray off the counter, because I feel like it's going to be like, woo! They've done studies with fruit bowls, and people that have their fruit bowls on their kitchen counters where people walk past have higher fruit consumption. But Savesh, I'm worried that that's going to happen with your snack tray. So I like the idea, and I'm all for like moderation, and I'm really, it's important, if you want a little treat, have it with all the love in the world, but maybe just move it into, in our house, the treats, and something we do is our treat tub is not see-through, it's solid, so that if I open the cupboard, it's not like, oh, look, Claire, there's a chocolate just waiting for you, because I love chocolate myself. And we also put things like biltong, nuts, dried fruit, lots of different stuff go in there with the chocolate. So often my kids will actually say, oh, I want biltong, or they don't know that the treat is like a good, bad, right, wrong. And like Nadia was saying, you don't make a big thing about it. So have a mixed bag of treats. I like your idea of the single portion, Savesh, very good. But I would move it off the counter. It needs a new home.
I'm going to put it behind the fruit bowl. Behind. So you've got to go through the fruit bowl to get to it.
Okay.
Right.
It's like an active control, basically.
Yeah. Behavioral management changes.
Yeah,
to get there.
Yes, Savesh, I feel like your snack or treat tray is almost like a sweet jar, you know?
No.
Yes.
I'll send you a picture, Arthur. It's not that bad.
And by the time you've actually, different components that are in there, you've actually exceeded your energy intake. I know you're saying you are limiting, it has helped in terms of you controlling your little portions, but yeah, Claire is right.
Too much.
Yeah,
Okay.
it needs to, because it's close to the eyes, it's just very tempting.
I've got it.
I'm probably the exact opposite. It's mission impossible in my house to go and find the snacks. I hide them, which is also probably not the best way either. Yeah.
Good.
I wanted to make a comment as well on, Yoza was talking about her water intake, and she's using the warm water with the lemon, especially in winter. And what works actually really well, I say to patients, get a little flask, and even if you do some plain herbal teas, and then you put mint and some ginger and some cinnamon sticks, if you can just grab to a flask and squish it, and then warm water comes out, you'll increase your water intake in winter time. And Tracy, you were also mentioning earlier in our discussion about having our 8 glasses of water per day. The reason why that's actually the norm is because the average adult's about 70 to 80 kilos. So it's a glass of water for every 10 kilograms you weigh. So if you're little and you weigh 55, you can actually don't have to drink 2 liters. You could actually drink about 5 glasses of water a day. And a glass is about 250 mils. And if you weigh 100, you maybe need a bit more than 2 liters, like 2.5. So you can actually change up your water intake depending on your body weight, just to make sure you're getting enough water in to be hydrated.
Okay, that's really important. Okay. We've come to the Q&A segment of the event. So we're going to answer some of the questions we've received in the chat. The first question that I picked up on was whether sparkling water is good for you or the same as drinking still or tap water.
It's fine, you can drink it. Some people that have IBS might battle with the bubbles. Some people battle with the bloating sometimes, but from a nutritional perspective, they're the same. So it's fine. If you drink sparkling water, you can count that as part of your water intake.
Okay, great, thanks. And then there's some really nice comments around how high fiber carbs like brown rice and the high fiber pastas really go a long way because they keep you fuller for longer. So you actually will eat less and have fewer cravings actually versus the simple carbohydrates. So that's good. Just going along here, trying to see more questions.
There's one for Arthur while
Yeah.
you look through that, Tracy, just
Thank
around
you.
ACE high fiber, and is it indeed healthier than the regular ACE? Why and why?
Yes. So what we've done with the ACE high fiber is that we have added bran, which is wheat bran, so that we can then increase the already contained fiber in the normal ACE maize meal. So we wanted to ensure that for people who want to meet the fiber intake a day, which can range from 25 grams to 30 grams, we just need to make sure that they can actually achieve their fiber intake. So if you're looking for products that are source of fiber, definitely ACE maize meal is the option. But also if you're looking for products that are high in fiber, absolutely, you can just use the products.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Arthur.
Arthur.
Here's another question. What can we eat if we want to detox?
I'll take that one. So you actually don't have to have it. You have kidneys and a liver, and they will detox for you in your body. Okay, so we want to try and move away from detox diets. You can support your kidney function and support your liver by having a big intake of vegetables. So if you're somebody that's going, I want to go on a detox diet, instead of going on detox juicing and doing all these things, my advice to you would be drink enough water, a glass for every 10 kilograms you weigh, to support your liver and kidney function, and eat at least 4 cups of vegetables every day and get a big variety of vegetables into your diet. Do that, get enough sleep, and be active. That's how you can help your body to detox using its own organs. We have amazing bodies. We just need to support them, and they'll look after us.
Great.
Also from the same person who asked that question, they're saying, would you recommend 1 meal a day, but a balance of all the nutrients needed?
That's intermittent fasting on steroids.
Yeah. So the thing is, Tracy, the reality is you do get people that do that, and they might need you need support in that and making sure you're getting enough nutrition. But in my experience, you're not going to feel satisfied with 1 meal and having nothing else the whole day. And you're probably not meeting your nutrient requirements. So sometimes we so focus on the calories and not having too much kilojoules, but did you have enough protein? Did you have enough fat in your diet that's good quality? Did you get in enough vegetables? You're going to battle to get in your requirements in terms of nutrient reference values and what you need in a day in one single meal. I mean, just to put it in perspective, your protein needs per day, if you're not getting that protein in and you're not meeting energy requirements, your body will go eat your muscle for protein and for energy. And if you're trying to be lean and lose weight and look good in your Speedo or whatever, you need proper protein and muscle, and you can't skip on that. There is no quick fix around that. So my sort of opinion on that would probably be not. No.
Yeah, and that the concern there will also be that, I mean, you're going to portion distort. If you're going to have 1 meal, there's a high likelihood that you might, include a lot of starch in your plate, a lot of protein in your plate, because you're now trying to get all these important nutrients into 1 meal, and it's really not an easy thing to do. So splitting your meals into small, frequent meals throughout the day, it's really how we should be approaching, good eating.
Arthur, and then maybe a follow-on to that question, right? Because Priyashna asked the question, is the old adage true? Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper.
Yeah, so let's start from breakfast, right? We know we've been fasting throughout the night, right? And now breakfast is really your first meal of the day, so that you can have the right type of energy that will sustain you from morning until probably your next snack or your next meal, right? And it is generally advised that breakfast should actually contribute 20%, at least 20%, of our energy intake during the day. And it's really an opportunity where we can make, good nutrient intake, because many studies have actually shown that people who have breakfast, they actually have a better nutrient intake as compared to people who don't have breakfast. And if you look at, lunch and dinner, we generally say that the energy contribution should be at least 30% of what you should be aiming for. And and also because this takes cognizance that your carbohydrates, your good carbohydrates, which are high in fiber or which are whole grains, need to contribute that high energy that you're looking for, so that you can have good energy throughout the day that sustains you, so that you have good gastric emptying, so that you feel fuller for longer and not want to overeat in the next meal. So splitting your energy across the day is really the important thing that we should be aiming for.
Okay, good. So it is about the split, right? And I suppose where that question or where that old adage may have come from is that you have more time for your body to break down breakfast than you may have dinner, and a more active lifestyle as you're going through your day. I see Claire sort of agreeing.
Yeah. So Vish, what's also very interesting, and I saw something, a comment pop up about it, but if we look at our circadian rhythm and our sleep cycle, and when we're awake and when we sleep and when we're supposed to eat and when we're supposed to fast, we do know that if we have a very, very big meal later on in the evening, our body's already secreting melatonin at about 9 p.m. to put us to bed. If we're having this massive meal late at night, the melatonin has actually also switched off the insulin, and we're going to get a poorer response when we eat meals late at night in terms of our circadian rhythm. So you want to have good quality sleep, and it is better to have a lighter meal earlier on and not eat late at night, because our body circadian clock actually wants us to not be eating at 10 o'clock at night. So I do think that having, like Arthur was saying, split out our meals over the course of the day. It gives us fuel and nutrients throughout the day that supports our bodily function. And our body's got this inbuilt clock, and we can use it to our advantage.
We were speaking about sugar consumption earlier, and one of the questions in the chat is around, is too much fruit bad?
Okay, so let's look at fruit. I'm going to actually just show you here. If we take fruit, this is a fruit portion. This is one orange. Okay, my good old little trusty food model. And the fruit is not bad for you. It's the portion in which we consume it in. So if we take a mango, a portion of mango is about 110 grams of mango. So that doesn't mean you can eat a whole mango or eat a whole watermelon. That portion is incorrect. What happens with fruit is when we eat a fruit, it's fructose. It's a fruit sugar, and it's in a fiber matrix. So before that fructose goes to your bloodstream, it has to go to the liver. The liver will convert that fructose to glucose before it enters the bloodstream, okay? But the fructose in a whole fruit, it's almost like the fructose is in its own little cage, and it has to escape that cage, which is the fiber, before we're going to get the glucose out. So if you eat whole fruit in its natural format like this, okay, and even fruit in its whole form, and it's portion controlled, then fruit is absolutely fine. The problem with fruit comes in when people take this, throw this in their blender with a banana and an apple, and then squish out all the pulp on the side, and they're drinking smoothies that have 3 fruits in. Now you've got no fiber, you've got fructose flooding that poor little liver. You're getting triglyceride production from the liver now because you're flooding it with fructose. So it's the portion we eat, and you can still have dried fruit. You can have canned fruits. You can use those. It's portion control. So when we eat like a pear, a dried pear, 2 dried pear halves were a whole pear. I had a patient once used to keep raisins in her cubby hole and eat them as a snack. And the one day she got stuck on the highway and ate the whole bag of raisins at once. And she said, oh, it was nice. But I said, you realize you basically ate 2 boxes of grapes. She said, no. I said, raisins are grapes. They used to be grapes that shriveled up and is now a raisin. So always remember, your dried fruit was a whole fruit that's now shriveled up in little. So the portions are a lot smaller. Obviously, with canned fruit, always go for the ones that don't have added sugar. You get the ones that don't have. So look out for that on your labels. But yes, you can use fruit. It has lots of health benefits, lots of phytonutrients. You don't have to be scared of fruit. Just keep the portion sizes correct.
Okay, thanks, Claire. There's one last question that I'll ask, and that is from the audience. Someone is saying, what types of food could I eat if I'm battling to sleep? I mean, I know we need to have between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night, but I guess there's nothing more frustrating than struggling to sleep and tossing and turning. And can food help?
Yeah. So one of the key things that help with sleep as well is your serotonin production. And we know that if we've got a good serotonin in our from foods in our diet, and we get serotonin from tryptophan. So something like a hot cup of milk with a bit of cocoa powder for the winter time will actually really help your sleep, because you're getting tryptophan, which is the amino acid, but you're getting insulin from the carbohydrates in the dairy that it's a bit complicated, but it clears the other amino acids. So it lets tryptophan be the hero and cross the blood-brain barrier and make serotonin, and then actually really helps with sleep. So that old wives' tale of a little hot cup of milk does help, but overall, you need to have a balanced diet so that you can make serotonin, so that you've got adequate protein in your diet. Also, we have to talk about sleep hygiene, I think, Tracy, like making sure you're off your devices for a good hour before bedtime, making sure that your room's got ventilation and it's nice and dark. That also helps with sleep. So those are key things. A balanced diet actually goes a long way in terms of helping us with sleep, muscle building, immune function. Nutrition is amazing and super powerful, so we used to use it to our advantage.
Okay, thanks, Claire. So we've come to the end of the Q&A session. Is there anything else from our panel? Any other comments that you would like to make?
Yeah, just closing thoughts from each of you, please. That would be great before we round up. Fastest button first.
Yoza.
Nadia's ready?
Oh, okay. I guess I am. I just wanted to say that I really love this campaign. I love that we can start our 28 days whenever we want. And I also like the idea that Claire mentioned of picking your 3 good habits, your 3 bad habits, and just reinforcing the good and working on the ones that need some help. So I'm super excited. Like, I've started a few of these changes. I didn't want to jump right in because I knew it would be too much and I'll just feel overwhelmed and stop. So super excited for this journey. And also, I've mentioned this before, that parents are the example that kids look to when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to just being healthy in general. So it's really important that we as parents eat well, that they see us eating our veggies and enjoying it, that we have healthy snacks, because, I mean, kids steal from your plate all the time. They want to eat what you're eating. So if you're eating good stuff, they also are having the same thing. So yeah, really enjoying this journey and super excited to just carry on.
Thanks,
Thank you, Nadia.
Yeah, I'm also really enjoying this journey, and I think I've just learned that small steps really count. I think something that was big for me was like thinking, maybe if I had a healthy breakfast and then maybe my lunch is not so healthy, it's all like, it's over, But I really learned that, like, it's you constantly can make a better decision the next time, and it doesn't mean that like my 28 days is over. And it's really about the small things. Did I make a better choice today? Yes, I did. And if it was just breakfast, that's fine. Tomorrow I'll do breakfast and lunch. So yeah, that's been really important for me. And I really learned today that you have to have 1 glass of water for every 10 kgs you weigh. I didn't know that. That's something I learned. I just thought it was 8 glasses for everybody. So yeah, that was really cool to learn. And yeah, just thank you so much. This has been great.
Great. Manuel and Darren?
For me, thanks so much. Like Yoda was saying, the water intake part, that was a huge insight for me. But in addition to that, the whole Eat Well, Live Well experience has been amazing, in that it has shown me, one, that to eat well does not mean you need to eat bland food necessarily. It's all about your portion intake. That's the one thing. 2, the importance of balancing that also with your exercising, because at the end of the day, I think the 2 combined, it has an impact on your mental state of mind. And I think in the life that we're living right now through lockdown, I think it's key that mentally we remain alert, that we remain, balanced. And through this, the whole Eat Well, Live Well, that's a key takeout for me. You want to add on?
I think for me, I could sit and listen to Claire and Arthur the whole day. I mean, those little nuggets and things that you throw at your just how clued up you are on diet and nutrition and all the rest of it. we've become so robotic and automated when we eat and how we eat. But I think understanding why we eat certain foods and what it does to our bodies and how it adds to our wellness and our well-being, I certainly think we need to be made more aware of that. So thanks very much, guys. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I just want to say that, like every meal is an opportunity to make a good choice. And I think we have seen that the global pandemic and the resulting strict lockdowns, they just put our eating habits and behaviors under the magnifying glass. Really, lockdown revealed that what we've always known, which is that we often eat our way through our emotions. So many people, when we are overwhelmed by life, we just comfort eat, and often nutrition is sacrificed in that moment where we prioritize taste over food. And I think it's evident from the discussion that we're having today that that is exactly our experience for most of us, right? So I think it is really important for us to be intentional about the choices that we make so that we can form better eating habits long term and really be better and not be hard on ourselves. Really understand that, if you had that little chocolate or a serving of, nuts or something that was not part of what you wanted to have on that day, you have an opportunity to make a difference in the next meal. Really, the session was exciting. We learned a lot, from the panel and also the bloggers and also the questions that came through. I think for me, I take them so that I can continuously increase my nutrition knowledge so that we're able to influence and help South Africa make better food choices all the time.
Thanks, Arthur. Claire?
I think for me, just to wrap up as well, is this Eat Well, Live Well campaign is giving good evidence-based advice to the consumers. You're getting access to dietitians like Arthur that are putting that information together for you, and go use it. Go try a recipe. It just takes one small step to see, oh, this is delicious, and you'll start changing. So yeah, encouraging every single South African that's listening to this to make, start with this journey, get the good stuff in, and you've got all the tools at your disposal, go use them. And it's been great. I've been thoroughly enjoyed chatting with all of you, and thank you for the questions and everything. It's been excellent.
Great. Thank you very much to the panelists, and thanks for all your words of wisdom, and let's hope we can keep this journey going in sequences of 28 that make South Africa better. Tracy, before I wrap up, do you want to have any final words? You're a bit of the healthier one in between the two of us anyway. Anything that you've learned, or is all of this common knowledge to you?
I've learned a lot. I've learned to simplify things. I think I put my family or my kids maybe under a lot of pressure to always choose a healthy option, and I always go off and dictate and rant and give them all the theory and whatever. And I've learned to kind of back off and bring some fun into it. And I'm going to be drawing the pictures on the little faces on my fruit. I love that idea. But yeah, I think less is more. Definitely my big key takeout.
Great. Thank you very much, Tracy. And then thanks again to all of you. If I had to sort of summarize my key takeouts of the section of ours was about sometimes we get lazy and we take the easy route, but actually through planning and meal preparation, actually creating healthy meal wonders for your family actually isn't as difficult as you believe. And also there's a perceived taste bridge between healthy and unhealthy, which may be a reality for some things, but a lot depends on how you'll be able to counter that with the use of spices or of additions that actually make something that tastes unhealthy taste a lot better. Starting them younger obviously makes it easier. So it's never too late for even those of us that are not as young, but it is definitely easier for younger. So be very conscious about the behavior that you model for your kids. And sometimes it's a mental block that we need to get over to get to the next phase. So how do we do that more deliberately? Focus on health, not on weight. I think that's a very key learning for me, because it isn't only about weight management, because you could get there very easily doing the wrong things. And the last one is, for me, let's separate fact from fiction, and let's stop believing everything that crosses our feeds, our social feeds, and really look to trusted sources where we understand and believe and can with confidence know that we're taking deliberate steps moving forward that are going to make a positive impact to our lives. Okay, and that's got to my take. And to our panelists, to everyone, to those that have dialed in and listened to us and submitted their questions and comments in the chat box, thank you for being such an engaged audience today. Please continue sharing your thoughts, comments, and questions with us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Tag us when you make Eat Well, Live Well recipes from your website, because like we said, it's a 8-day campaign ending today on World Nutrition Day, but it doesn't end. It continues from today. So your 28-day journey starts when you choose to make day one a conscious decision for yourself. So the hashtags are all on there where you can, what you should be posting with, as well as our social media handles to continue engaging with us. But ultimately, you become your behavior. So please, can you drive that more deliberately? Please also have a look at the Eat Well, Live Well website on www.ewlw.co.za, where you can find healthy and nutritious meal ideas that the whole family would love, a lot of which has been discussed over the course of this webinar. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Eat Well, Live Well SA. Thank you again to the panelists and everyone for joining the Tiger Brands team today to discuss this very pertinent issue, and we look forward to future events like this. Remember that the journey to better food choices can start at any time, and with every new day. It requires us to be intentional. So thank you, and happy World Nutrition Day, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Lovely to
Bye, everyone.
chat. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Until next
Cheers.
time.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.